Today, we're lucky to have a special guest panelist, Christine Treisa from Oklahoma Gas and Electric, who will be sharing on her company's automation journey with us. As we all know, the utility industry is facing many challenges, from rising costs to increased competition. That's why it's more important than ever to find innovative ways to increase efficiency and reduce costs, and that's where automation comes in. At Oklahoma Gas and Electric, they've been using both Alteryx and UiPath to automate a wide range of tasks, from data entry to document processing. And today, Christine will be sharing some of the insights and learnings from their automation journey. So sorry for the delay as I'm configuring my camera, but Christine, great to have you today. And how about we open up? Tell us a little bit about your company's automation journey and how you first got started with Alteryx and UiPath.
Yeah, so OG&E began their automation journey back in around 2019. And in the past 5 to 10 years, our company has made a significant effort to upgrade some of our outdated legacy systems and to introduce new ways to make data more accessible. For example, we've invested a lot over the past few years to enhance our entire electric grid, and we're also working on upgrading our SAP instance to S4. And with all of these upgrades, we've had to research and anticipate what organizations are moving towards to be more innovative and provide better solutions for our employees and our customers. So with that, we saw that automation was the next big thing that could transform the way that we work. So back in 2019, we ultimately decided to move forward with UiPath and Alteryx after doing some proof of concepts and seeing the benefits that both of those tools could provide. Through this entire process, we've partnered with Capitalize to help us on our journey. And for us, the best solution was to use kind of a hybrid team. So that consists of some Capitalize business analysts, developers, solution architects, so that they could build the automation solutions for us, while those of us at OG&E will drive the effort to spread awareness of the tools, bring in new ideas, and ultimately drive the execution of the project from start to finish. While we do have our central automation center of excellence to work on projects, we also want to enable our employees to be citizen developers and to serve themselves whenever it makes sense. I think where we are trying to get is to really enable that citizen development and push it, because as Torin and Lindsay demonstrated, those tools are very intuitive and relatively easy to learn. So to kind of push that effort, we host a lot of trainings so that those who are interested can learn the tools, and the COE at OG&E and Capitalize are available to support them throughout their building and implementation process. As of today, kind of our current state, we have 24 bots in production, and that's over the course of about 20 to 24 months. And this is just within our COE, so not considering any of the citizen developer efforts that we've been able to complete over that time as well. And so one big thing that we have started doing, and unfortunately we didn't really put a lot of time into this at the beginning, but we have started capturing the data to provide those ROI metrics for those processes, and so that we're able to provide it to our leadership and the company to show the value and investment of automation, and that it does pay off. So we started capturing ROI data, I think back in October of 2022 officially, and unfortunately we can't, get execution data from before that time because bot logs expire and so on. But since then, we've estimated that we've saved our employees around 700 hours of work. And if we think about the full timeline of those automations since the first one went live in 2021, that number is actually way higher. So overall, we are very pleased with the results that we've seen, and it's really just opening a lot of opportunities to look at the way that we do business.
That's great to hear. Can you So there was a lot of information there. Can you give us an example of a specific process that you used to automate something with either Alteryx and or UiPath?
Yeah, so I'll give an example of a UiPath Alteryx. Oh, sorry guys, I'm in a conference room with a timer on the light. So yeah, I'll give an example of a UiPath Alteryx combination project. So one of the first spots that we put into production was for our treasury group. So the gist of this process is every weekday morning, someone on that team would go out to our banking site and download an ACH financial report. From there, they would do some data prep and run some Excel macros to generate the final report before sending it out. And this process typically took them about 15 minutes each morning. So not a ton of time to complete, but again, it's tedious. They have to think about it every single morning whenever they come in, and they were just ready to automate and try it out. So the solution that we came up with was to have UiPath go out and access the bank site through SFTP. From there, it downloads the ACH report for that day and saves it to the Treasury Network drive. As Torrend and Lindsay kind of demonstrated, the integration between Alteryx and UiPath is very seamless. At the point where UiPath drops it in the network drive, it calls the Alteryx workflow, which completes the data transformation and basically replicates the Excel macro that they were doing. And once that's complete, it sends out the report automatically to the Treasury group for sign off and approval. With the automated process, it only takes the bot about 2 minutes to complete the entire thing. And the great thing is the Treasury group they barely have to think about this process now. They come in, they see that report in their inbox, and they're like, oh, okay, great. And so we have many projects that end up only needing one of these tools, but when they're used together, you're able to create these full circle solutions that solve some of your biggest problems.
That's that's a really interesting story. Great example. And you mentioned a few there, but can you talk a little bit about some of the benefits that yourself or your stakeholders have seen since implementing automations like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the list goes on, but utilities, we literally have to keep the lights on 24/7. And the great thing about robots is that they have the ability to run at all hours of the day, 365 days a year without taking any breaks. This means that we can improve our operations and increase our speed of delivery for our customers. Since we are a very public-facing industry, customer satisfaction is one of our top priorities. And if we can automate processes in every part of the company, we're ultimately providing a better experience down the line. And it's not just benefiting our external customers, because when you automate processes, your employees now have the peace of mind that their data and reports are going to be delivered on time and with improved accuracy. Just a second, guys.
See, this is part of the benefit of automation is it reduces any risk of error.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so with the improved accuracy and reliability that our employees can rely on, it removes those mundane and repetitive tasks that they have to do every single day or however frequent it is, which enables them to focus on higher value initiatives and to work safely without any added distraction. Research does suggest that automation and RPA can ultimately boost employee morale because they're able to feel like they're providing more value throughout their day-to-day work. And with analytics, Alteryx is such a powerful tool, and it has so much analytic functionality. The great thing about it, as Lindsay demonstrated, it's very easy to learn. And previously, the main tool that our analysts were using was SAS Enterprise Guide, which is also very powerful, but it's also clunky and there's a bigger learning curve. It's not as intuitive. And with Alteryx, our analysts are able to easily do data prep, manipulation, and schedule their workflows so they can provide insights in a fraction of the time. And a great example of that, how it's directly impacted how we do things at OG&E. And the example is a little bit similar to the one that Lindsay showed with allocating material for, I think it was pipelines. But so our analyst built an inventory allocation workflow for our supply chain group. And as everyone knows, over the past year or so, we've all experienced the shortages of supply. So to combat this, our analysts created the workflow that's able to pull our work orders out of SAP and then compares it to our available material. From after processing and kind of matching up which material can go to which jobs, a report is sent out to those stakeholders and also published to a Power BI dashboard so that they are able to schedule or maximize the number of jobs that we can complete at any given time.
It's really a game changer for the organization.
Oh, right.
That's incredible. Well, I see that we're quickly running out of time. I want to leave some time at the end. So we might conclude with this last question. What advice would you give to organizations that are just beginning to explore the potential of automation, whether it's Alteryx or UiPath? What piece of advice, what piece of wisdom might you give them?
I think the most important thing is to do that upfront research and evaluate which tools are available to you. There are a ton of automation softwares out there, and you want to make sure that you choose the right tool for your needs. With that, it's important to do a thorough proof of concept to show your leadership the value that automation can provide and get that buy-in from them. Because if you don't have the support from the groups that you're going to be working with, such as IT, audit, security, it's going to be difficult to implement an automation solution because there's going to be, some uncomfortableness. Automation is a new concept, and some people don't buy in right away, especially when there are so many controls around it. Lastly, I would say just make sure that you select a great partner like Capitalize to help you on your automation journey, because they have been instrumental in helping us stand up our environments for both UiPath and Alteryx. And you really just want to be selective and make sure that they have your best interest in mind and are invested in the success of your company as well. So yeah.
Awesome. I think I got a message saying that this is going really well and that we can keep going. So I might ask this question for a little bit of dose of reality, right? I think we've made it sound amazing, which it rightfully is, but it's not magic, right? It's not hocus pocus, you're in focus. So what kind of challenges have you seen along the way?
Yeah, there's been a lot. So regulated utilities are generally very stable and don't like to incur a lot of risk. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of controls in place with audit, compliance, security, and external standards that we have to comply by. We also deal with a lot of sensitive data, such as customer information. And to combat this, we had to do a lot of upfront work to ensure that everyone was comfortable with the idea of automation and work to gain their trust so that we could be successful going forward. I think you kind of have to explain sometimes when someone is first introduced to RPA that it's not AI, it can't think for itself, and it's only going to do what you program it to do. So ultimately, You just need, to make that clear, set expectations up front, and get that buy-in from all of your stakeholders. Another thing that's been challenging for us, I mentioned it before, but we've had a lot of older legacy systems that are complex and that were customized early on. And sometimes we find that automation tools don't always work with these systems, or at least parts of them. However, since we have invested so much into upgrading our technology, we now have better access to data and in turn can be more intuitive. When you're dealing with systems that don't integrate well with automation software, we really have to try to be creative with our solutions so that we can automate some, if not all, of the process. And with that, another challenge of automation and RPA specifically is that it can be perceived as this silver bullet that can solve all of your problems. And it is a great tool, but it can't do everything. Like I said before, we have to be creative in our solutions, and that doesn't always mean the answer is automation. Sometimes the process is just not as efficient as it could be, and it needs to be reworked before you can consider other solutions. And the most important thing with that is to manage those expectations with your customer that you're automating for, and being upfront about what you think is possible. And if it's not possible, you should be able to provide suggestions and guidance on how we can make the process better and give it the potential for automation.
That's a really good point there. At the end, if you automate a bad process, you just have a bad automated process, right? And so with automation, whether you're using Alteryx or if you're using UiPath, it's really a blend of art and science, right? Kind of bringing it together. Oftentimes you don't want to automate the same process step by step. You really want to restructure it, reimagine it, and then bring it back together, let the bots go after it from there. But Christine, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I'm glad to have you on this discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.